Hello, everyone. Happy Friday the 13th. Today, we have a very special guest, and I'm just going to take a moment to send a request so that they can join us on this call. As you all may know, founder of the Yoga Corner, and I help yoga teachers overcome self-doubt and fear so that they can find unwavering self-trust and manifest the yoga entrepreneur lifestyle of their dreams. Hello, Libby. Did you get my request? I'll try again. All right. So, in just a moment, we are going to be joined by my friend Libby. Here she comes. Libby is the mindset witch, using tools like tarot and yoga and affirmation to change the spells you tell about yourself and your life. And today, Libby and I are going to be talking about how to awaken your inner badass. So, we're just having a little technical difficulty, so bear with me. Hi, Jaylee. Libby, I don't know why this is not working, because oh, here we go. I think I did it. Accept. Oh, here we go. Perfect.
Hi, sorry, I had audio issues, so nothing runs smoothly.
No worries at all. Well, welcome. I'm glad we made it work.
Yeah, super glad to be here. This is great.
Thank you for joining. So I like to start all my chats like this by having us take a couple of deep breaths together. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And anyone who's listening now or joining us for the replay, I invite you to join us in a couple of deep breaths as well. So maybe close your eyes or take a soft gaze. Sit up nice and tall, lengthen your spine. Roll your shoulders up to your ears and allow them to drop down your back. When you're ready, begin to take a deep inhale through the nose, filling your belly, your rib cage, your collarbone, and then letting it all go out the mouth. 2 more deep belly breaths just like that. Inhale, fill up, and let it go. One last time, biggest breath. And get empty. And whenever you feel ready to come back to the present moment, you can open your eyes. Can you hear me? I think we're having another, oh, there we go.
Oh, and of course my camera flipped too, so now I'm, okay. This happens every time I do a joint video with somebody. I want you to know that. My joint videos are cursed, so...
No worries at all. Instagram Live can be a very clunky application to use, so I'm sure you're not alone at all.
Well, and every time I've done an Instagram Live with somebody else, it's been Mercury in retrograde. So I'm just kind of like,
Well, don't
can we
blame on that.
not do that? Can Mercury please just get its shit together?
Right. Now that you're here, I'm wondering if we could start by having you introduce yourself and your business.
Sure. So I'm Libby. I am a yoga teacher. I'm a tarot reader, and I'm a mindset coach. So a lot of what I talk about is how everything is interconnected with like wellness and mindset and the way that we speak about ourselves and the way that we view the world. And it's like all of this stuff is connected, and the way that we move throughout the world is connected to, you know, universe, source, God, like whatever you want to call it. And we're all a part of this crazy journey that we call life on a floating rock in the middle of the galaxy. So, um, that's a lot of what my business talks about is just like the idea that everything is interconnected and we need to nurture all aspects of our lives in order to achieve true wellness.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think that is really important to, like you said, all facets. And I'm curious because one of the things that you shared with me is that you teach rage yoga.
Yep.
And rage happens to be one of those facets that I think sometimes we like try to ignore or pretend like doesn't exist. I'm wondering how you see, maybe some of those negative emotions tying into like holistic wellness.
So, like food, I don't like to label anything like I don't like to label emotions positive, negative, good, bad. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of just like it's all
yeah,
energy. Every emotion we experience is all energy in some form. Really, it's a chemical reaction inside of our
right.
brains that it happens when we feel an emotion. When it comes to rage, society has labeled
Yeah,
it as a negative emotion and it's been labeled as bad. And also, like me as a binary woman, it's like, how dare you feel
exactly.
anger and have an emotion? Why are you so emotional? And it's like, but I'm a human and we
Right,
are all capable of a whole range of emotions. The idea of rage yoga is just like no, it's
yeah,
acceptable for you to feel this emotion because it's a normal human emotion and you're going to have human
yeah,
experiences. And so I was like, okay, well, how can we do this in a safe, constructive manner? Because while we are not like, it's not our fault that we feel emotions, but it is our responsibility on how we react to things and like how
right.
we deal with those emotions. So when I first read about rage yoga, I was just kind of like, what a way to clear the throat chakra. And I
Yeah,
was like, all for it, went completely in on this idea of like, let's clear everything out.
yeah,
And especially for like binary women, where it's you can't feel rage because then you're labeled as a bitch or like
right.
whatever. So it's just so it's especially, and I attract a lot of women in my business anyway. So it's just kind of like giving the safe space of
Yeah,
it's okay that you feel this
yeah,
emotion because it just means that maybe you have a buildup of energy. Maybe your throat chakra is blocked, like something like that, and giving that safe space of like, let's clear it out. Let
yeah,
that shit go.
yes. Um, it's so interesting because we met like couple months ago. Libby and I met
Yeah.
at a yoga class. Libby came to the studio I work at, and we had the opportunity to chat. And we talked a lot about anger and rage. And at the same time, another close friend of mine invited me. She sent me a text. She's like, I have an idea of something I want to do, and you're the only one who is like crazy enough that I think would do it with me. And I was like, well, that's quite the compliment, I think.
I was going to
And
say that sounds like the best compliment
yeah,
somebody could give somebody else. Like, yeah, I will try new things.
and the whole thing was it was called a swamp party, and it was just her and I, and we took tennis rackets and beat that ever living shit out of like a fluffy big really fancy down comforter, so when you
I
hit
love
it,
it.
it had some give. And we just like put on really angry music and beat this thing with tennis rackets and like screamed at each other and created like our own safe space for our rage. And even in that space where I was with someone I trusted, and we were going to like do this together, it still felt so vulnerable.
It really is. Any expression of emotion can totally be a vulnerable experience. And I love that idea that your friend had. That sounds amazing. And now I want to
I
know what
thought
I
of it,
want to
I
do
was
for my
like,
birthday.
you would love this.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about your journey of wellness and entrepreneurship, like how you came to be a mindset coach?
Sure. So Oh, where I never know where is the best place to start with this. I guess like we could take it in the way, way back machine
Sure.
to high school where it was like, you know, teenage
Yeah.
hormones for starters, where it's just like you're living in this space of uncertainty and anxiety. And I was diagnosed with anxiety and OCD when I was in high school. But like I wasn't taught coping skills. It was just kind of like, here's medication. And
Yeah.
it's like
Right.
that medication didn't work. And then like this thing didn't work. And it's like, okay, let's add this together. So it was just kind of like all of these emotions. And as a teen,
Right.
you can't process emotions to start with. So like there's that. And so the emotional state wasn't there and like trying to learn how to process emotions, but
Right.
not really being given the coping skills to
Yeah.
process emotions. And then time hop. A lot of this just kind of like continued.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is the reason why. This is my cat.
Oh my
He's
goodness. What a cute
bring her over here.
baby.
I'm watching her tip over my fiance's like priceless
Of
television.
course, because cats.
But I so apologize
No,
for interrupting you.
it's okay. It's okay. It's so all of that kind of like um just kept on for years and years, like through college, and then to the point where when I was 24, I got divorced from my ex-husband. And it was just kind of like that when I feel like everything kind of was like I can't remember the exact point that I want the word that I want to use, but it's like it comes to the tipping point
Yeah.
where it was just kind of like I'm living in the state of anger, and while anger is a valid human emotion, anger is not a place to live.
Yeah.
So I was like living in this point of anger, um, using alcohol and junk food as a way to cope with it because again, still working on the coping skills
Right.
thing. Like at this point I was running consistency, which like helped, but like there's other things for
Right.
coping skills. And it was one of those things where I knew it wasn't good for me because my background was in nutrition and dietetics. So naturally I'm like, I know this is bad for me, but I'm doing it anyway. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to live like
Yeah.
this and I need to get my ish together.
Right.
So it wasn't until I started maybe 6 months after my divorce where I was kind of just like, okay, it needs to be like I need to stop blaming this other person for what happened
Yeah.
because in reality, I am capable of making my own decisions and I am also capable of changing my life.
Right.
So from there, I ended up moving back up to New Hampshire and I started dating my now partner and just kind of slowly, it was a slow process. And that's something I want to stress for anybody who is watching this, who is maybe just beginning their wellness journey. Like, it's not an overnight thing, but one of the things that helped me quite a lot was habit change. And instead of, I'm going to drink half a bottle of wine multiple times a week, it was like, okay, well, let's try meditating because I can't sit still to save my life. Still can't sit still to save my life. Like I'm a 15-minute tops meditator. I'm not one of the like I'm going to sit here in silence for 3 hours. I can't do it. There's no way.
My brain moves
just
too fast.
no, there's always something going on up here. So, and it was like, okay, well, let's try meditating, even if it's 5 minutes, because realistically, you are still going to get health benefits, even if you just meditate for five
Right.
minutes. Let's be real. And while, yes, I had been doing yoga since I was like 5, because I was raised by a yoga teacher, so it was just the normal thing in my life that I did.
Awesome.
And, but then it became a daily practice.
Yeah.
And then in, I don't know, 2018, I want to say, I did my YTT program. And it was that experience of the additional like spiritual stuff that comes in YTT programs and in adding in that spiritual side of things. And like, yeah, I had been labeling myself as a witch since I don't even know. But it was like finally embracing it, I guess that really helped. So far I've mentioned like physical changes, changing
Yeah.
the habits, spiritual changes helped with this, um, nutritional changes helped with this, like, and then movement changes. So again, everything is
Right.
interconnected, and that's how we experience full wellness. So when I say it's not an overnight process, it's not, because you can't expect yourself to adopt 20
Yeah.
new
Right.
habits in 3 weeks. Like, you're not going to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I like what you said about like okay, tonight I'm going to try meditation even if it's just a couple of minutes, because I think that it is easier to think of things in like you don't have to commit to something permanently to just try it once. And
Exactly.
yeah, the
It's all
example
about,
that, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say it's all about trying new things. And I'm
Exactly.
going to be honest, I'm pretty sure I was like, let's try meditating after I had already had a glass of wine. And I think it was one of those things where I was like, okay, well, I don't want to have multiple glasses. So I've had the one, like, let's just try meditating.
Right. Yeah. And for
Let's try
me,
breathing through this moment instead of numbing the moment.
right. For me too, it was like when I started to quit drinking, I didn't go into it thinking, today's my last drink and I'm quitting forever. I was like, let's try dry January. Like, why not? And then I was like, let's just keep going. And then I was like, I want to have a glass of wine tonight. And I'm like, wow, I feel like shit now. So maybe this dry thing was working out. And I thought of it as like an experiment every day, just like noticing what I felt in my body and in my mind, and eventually gathered enough information from my experiments to make a decision that I felt I could confidently like follow through with.
I love that. And that is so, since all of that like coalesced in my mid 20s up until now I'm about to turn 31. It, like, I mean, I still was drinking wine for a little bit, but like it wasn't the out of control, like,
Right.
and I don't even want to say it was out of control, because it was definitely the depression mechanism kicking in,
Yes.
and living alone for the first time, and like
Yeah.
these types of things that caused anxiety. But now, like, I'm actually doing dry January for
Good
the
job.
first time in my life, and I'm like, where are we at? December 13th or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm 13 days sober, and it feels pretty good. And I'm going into the same mindset of you, of just kind of like, I'm trying this dry thing because I just had this feeling for a while of like, this doesn't really feel cool anymore. Like, it
Right.
doesn't feel like it's for me anymore. So let's try January. And it's even now, when I was talking to my partner about it, I was like, well, it doesn't have to be a forever thing. I
Right.
know when to stop. It's not like it's an issue for me. It's just sometimes my belly hurts and I don't
Right.
like it kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah. And like my experiment went all the way until like the next August. Like, and finally I was like, you know what? I don't need any more information. And like if I change my mind in the future, I guess I have that option. But like, yeah, just like making decisions about like what feels good in the moment instead of like thinking of like I have to take on this habit and it's like my for rest of my life.
And actually, I've been talking. I do want to highlight. Ronald put something in the chat that says, "Give yourself a break," and I
Aw,
feel like that's such a thing that we should all. I just want to highlight that for anybody who might be watching this later. Of like, anybody should just give yourself a break, because we're all just doing the best that we can.
yes. I like
Yeah.
also what he said. The substances are never the problem, they're the solution. Probably not the best solution. Yeah, we're just trying to survive, and like if you don't have coping skills, and then like that's what you're going to go to, and it's just your body, like you trying to protect yourself.
Yeah. So I love what he said in this, because I actually used to work in substance misuse prevention, and one of the thing is specifically around like opioids and that kind of stuff, and treatment and that kind of realm. So one of the things that we noticed a lot was the similar kind of story of like, I just wanted the voice in my head to stop. I
Right.
just wanted to numb out the feeling of anxiety. So thank you, Reynold, for bringing up those points. We really appreciate it. Um, Anyway, as far as like habits go, with what you were just saying of like we don't have to, we can change habits at
Right.
any point. That's something that I've been talking about a lot on my Instagram feed of like
Yeah.
what worked for you 2 years ago may not work for current you. And
Right.
also want to highlight what works for me may not work for Shelby.
Right.
And that's totally cool too, because we're all just floating around on this rock having experiences, and not no two experiences are the same.
Right. And also, I saw when I was poking around on your Instagram page that you have an offer around,
Yeah.
I can't say it, a habit audit, right? Something like that.
Yes.
Share a
Yes.
little bit
I'm
about that.
sure, I'd love to. So my inspect your habit call is essentially looking at a specific routine that you have in your daily life. I did a live video last night where I highlighted a bedtime routine, because for me, I find bedtime routines very important. We need the wind down time at the end of the day, so that way we can actually get a good night's sleep, because sleep's important. um, After not sleeping like all through college, I now value my sleep quite a lot.
So
So
undervalued.
I know, I know. And especially as a parent of a 3-year-old, I'm
Oh
just
God.
kind of like, any sleep I could get, please. Um, so I highlighted a bedtime routine of like, oh, this is what I used to do. And it was like, the general, like brush my teeth, wash my
Right.
face, do my skincare stuff, read for 20 minutes. And then my old routine, I was like, scroll through Instagram and then, eventually sleep. And then shift to
Right.
now where the habit changes. Instead of scrolling through Instagram for an eon, I'm going to meditate and honestly probably fall asleep during my meditation. And that's totally fine. So so this habit audit is essentially like looking at the routine of being like, okay, does the habit of as soon as I wake up and I turn off the alarm on my phone, and as soon as I have the phone in my hand, is the habit of I'm going to scroll through Instagram first thing in the morning going to help me achieve
Right.
my dream life? Or is it potentially going to set me back? Whereas instead of scrolling through Instagram, we can wake up and, the general, like, let the dogs out, start the coffee pot,
Right.
meditate, do yoga, go for a run, like whatever it is. Will those things instead lead me to my dream life?
Right.
So, and again, no two people are ever the same.
Right.
I actually just posted something where I was like, oh, one person might be trying to lose weight. One person might be trying to gain weight. One person might just be trying to stay the same. One
Right.
person might be a runner, so they need to eat the extra calories. And it's like, what is a plus for me may not be a plus for everybody else.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's really important too on social media, because there's so many people, like, even posts that are just like, this is what I eat in a day, or like, this is my workout routine. And I think it's important to recognize that it's like what works for that like influencer or that person on Instagram might not be what's best for you, just because like they are, positioning themselves as an expert on, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best for you personally.
Right. So, and that's so that again, the importance of the inspect your habits call is I want to talk about your habits.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about my habits. So it's kind of like, let's talk about that. And then like just introspection.
Yeah.
I think January, I talked about this earlier where in the month where it was like, okay, so Mercury is currently in retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, meaning this is actually a really good time for us to be looking at your habits, looking at where you want to go and start like goal setting and all that. But it's not necessarily the time to act.
Mm-hmm.
So Mercury is stationing direct on January 18th. So it's kind of like, let's do the habits, like let's look at everything now.
Right.
And then the new year is actually starting January 18th because Mercury will be out of
Yeah.
retrograde. This whole first 2 weeks is just let's try and see where we are now.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me too, because I have seen a lot where I've been just like, it's been coming into my awareness, like rhythms and routines, and like how winter is really supposed to be about more hibernating and planning, right? Like if we were farmers or whatever, we'd be like thinking ahead to spring, like
Right.
we take action and like renew and rebirth and like move forward.
Yep. Yep. I don't remember who I was talking about this with recently, but I was just essentially kind of like, okay, none of the calendars line up with each other. And it's just like the lunar calendar is in April. The the calendar year is in January. And
Right.
then like government grants are on this cycle and like this is on this cycle. And it's just kind of like, guys, January 1st should not be the new year because what is growing in the middle of winter?
Right.
Realistically,
Nothing where we live.
New Hampshire.
Libby and I both live in New Hampshire, which is very north United
Yeah,
States. It's actually quite warm here today. It's a nice
I'm
46 degrees.
I'm surprised because it snowed yesterday. So
You never know. You never know.
yeah,
So, the title of this episode is Awakening Your Inner Badass. So, really
yeah.
quickly, I was wondering if you could define what your definition of a badass is, and maybe like a couple of ways that someone could take action to try to revive or awaken this inner badass.
So I love this question. I think my personal definition of a badass is a person who knows who they are and then
Mm,
lives up to what they want to do and not listening to outside influences
yeah,
that may be coming through and just people telling you like, oh, well, you're good at X, so you should do Y. And
right.
instead you're going out and you're living your dream, you know yourself, and like that dream can be realistically whatever you want it to be. Like if your dream is an accountant, then like go forth and prosper. Bless. I'm not an accountant. But it like you can still be an accountant and still be a badass because you
Right.
know yourself and you're living what you want to be doing
Yeah.
instead of just walking around and doing the whole people pleasing thing and not
Right.
setting boundaries. So I think the biggest thing that somebody can do to awaken their inner badass is start saying no. Start setting your
Yeah.
own personal boundaries. We're not here to please everybody. You physically cannot please
Yeah.
everybody. You might as well just make yourself happy.
Yeah.
You, like I said earlier in this, we're not like we are responsible for our emotions and our reactions. Therefore, you should be just worrying about your own self.
Right.
Everybody can mind their own business.
And I think that goes back to like, whether it's your habits or like what you're, you know, envisioning or trying to manifest, like what one person can't do, you might be able to do. Or I guess a better way to say it is like, say, you want to start a business. Lots of people are probably going to tell you 100 reasons why that's a really bad idea, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they're projecting like their fear or their can'ts or their limitations on you, and your limitations are not their limitations. Like, so when you're absorbing that, like you're just like taking on their limitations. You have your own to deal with, like.
Right, exactly. We all have our own limitations. We all have our limited things where it's just kind of like, again, I'm not an accountant, but that's still an important thing that we need in this world. So like if your business dream is to start your own what is it, CPA, I think is what the acronym is. What if that is your dream to start your own CPA business, like love that for you.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about habits, where I personally believe that habits are the foundation for all of this,
Yeah.
where our habits make up our entire daily lives.
Right.
So one of the habits could be for somebody who is just starting this wellness journey is getting in the habit of analyzing every request that you get. Like,
Yeah.
do you want to take on this extra project at work, for example?
Yep.
Analyze what your calendar currently looks like. Do you have the time to actually do this project? Two, does this project align with what your job description is? because realistically, if it's not in your job description, you're not getting paid to do this project. So like that's something to take into consideration. And if it's going to take extra time, are you getting overtime? Because you should be compensated for your time. Your time is energy. And so before you say yes or no to every request, analyzing what it is and making sure it aligns with what you want to do and what your values are
Yeah.
and what is going to work feasibly in that time frame. And if the answer is yes, and like you actually want to do it, then by all means, go for it. But
Yeah.
don't just try to make it fit in a limited amount of time just because you want to appease your boss.
Yeah. One habit that I have been really working on, and I can be quite impulsive, so it's hard for me to do, is when I get an email or a text message or something like this. It's a lot harder when you're talking to someone in person. So still practicing that. But whenever you get any sort of request coming in, don't answer for, 24 hours. So that I have a
I
moment
struggle with that
to think
sometimes, but yeah.
about it and be like, okay, does this feel good? Do I actually have the time? Because otherwise, if I respond automatically and say yes, if it's not a true yes, I end up backtracking, and then
Yeah.
I end up feeling more guilty because I said yes
Yeah.
and committed, and then I'm trying to figure out how to get out of
Yep.
it.
Yep. I'm all about those mindful moments where it's just kind of like reflection. Can I take this on?
Right,
Do I want to? Do I have the time to?
right,
Like just being mindful of where we're spending our energy is what it comes down to.
absolutely. So I'm wondering, is there anything else that you are currently offering or anything else that you would like to share with anyone watching before we end this live?
So right now, my big thing is the Inspect Your Habits call. So I'm taking signups for that over, I don't know, probably through the weekend. I'll be taking signups for it because so that way I can start scheduling everything out, making sure everything fits really nicely. So the Inspect Your Habits call is what's going on, and then I'm going to be doing. I haven't picked an exact I have picked the exact date. I just can't remember what date I picked off the top of my head because there we are. I don't have my calendar in front of me right now. But I'm going to be next week, I'll be announcing a habit-based masterclass. So if
Ooh,
you are interested in a habit masterclass, go ahead and follow me at Yogini Witch Libby. And so that way you can stay up to date there. And then other than that, I'm working on an on-demand platform
cool.
for a monthly I almost said prescription, monthly subscription. That's more accurate. I'm not giving away too many details on that right now because I'm still trying to keep things a little close to the chest, but I can say it's going to be related to tarot
Cool.
in some way because I will relate anything back to tarot.
That's super exciting. So I am going to post this on my page in just a few minutes, and I will make sure to tag you so
Cool,
anyone
cool.
curious about Libby's services or coaching or just wants to follow along with her can find her. And yeah, so Libby, I wanted to send gratitude to you for taking the time to be here with me today and for sharing vulnerably. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to. I think when we share openly like this, it creates more of that connection. And I was talking to somebody earlier today about how it's just like it's all about
Yeah.
connection on this platform, and we should be, lifting each other up and collaborating and doing these things together. So I'm so glad that we got to do this.
Yeah. All right, friend. I'll be in touch about our other collaboration
All
and
right.
take another walk soon.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, when it's not, 20 degrees out.
All right. I'll text
All
you.
right. All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.